I have down in front here, I don't hand these out because if I hand them out to everybody when I go outside, it'll be in the wastebasket. You know, if you want one, you're welcome to it. And I have a business card here too, that you're welcome to that. I want to just show you a little bit, have an idea. We're a manufacturing company. We're a CNC job shop. And for some of you, I'm not sure whether you know what a lathe is or a mill is or anything like that, but this is typical of the type of work that we would do. This happens to be for Lawrence Tech's Formula car a couple of years ago. This is the front wheel hub. We made a pair of these and kept one, or made an extra one and kept it, polished it up so it looks real nice. And that's the rear hub. We made a couple of those plus an extra. So this is the type of work we do. This is made out of aluminum, that's steel. You can see the turning aspect of it. You can see the milling aspect of it. To give you kind of a little example of the process, the process that we do that's very common is we have a bar stock. It comes in 12 foot, certain diameter. We segment it off, and we start with a blank that looks like this, and we go through a first turning. We're going to make a yo-yo. This is actually this is a souvenir that we gave some high school kids that came through. This is a Duncan yo-yo. If I can get this string out of there. It's actually the identical gram weight of the championship yo-yo. We went online, found out what it was, and through our SolidWorks program, designed it, built it, and it actually weighs exactly what you'd think it would weigh, which is kind of amazing to me because of all the curves on it. But we'd start with a blank like that, and the first operation would go in a lathe. A lathe, the part rotates and the tool is stationary, and we would form this stuff, right? Like this. That would be the first. And we have this on here. Then we take it and again in the lathe, we take the chunk off on the end, hollow it out. They then take it out for an anodizing, aluminum anodizing, and you can get different colors. This happens to be red. And we can engrave our different logos on their names and then laser mark it. So this is kind of a typical process right here. All right, where did I put it? Right here. For those of you who didn't sign in, you can sign in here, okay? Okay, that sounds just like a professor, don't it? Huh? All right, we're a job shop, again. We have my shop in Sterling Heights. We were started in 1952 by my father. I bought it in 1977. I'm a graduate of Lawrence Tech, back when we called it Larry Tech. But it was not a university yet, and I'm very proud that it is a university. All right. It was working. Ooh, all right. It's sleep, I guess. Okay, let me get up here so I can read this too. Fitzpatrick Manufacturing Machine Shop, specialized turning, milling, and grinding. We have some CNC surface grinding. We manufacture to blanket orders and batch size purchase orders. Blanket orders has actually been a very powerful tool. I'll get into that in a minute for a company that has a product line that they want to go just in time, and instead of them ordering 10 pieces 12 times a year, they order 120. We carry their inventory, so we manufacture to blanket purchase orders, and that's been very good. In fact, I'll read it down here. I think it's easier. So what type of parts? These parts were just demonstration parts, but we make industrial motion control components, make industrial shock absorbers. We have a big customer in Farmington. We make oil exploration components. This is actually our biggest growth area right now. When we don't make the drilling heads, but there are so many things that go wrong when you're drilling. They have a whole specialty segment of the oil industry, service industry, that makes what they call fishing tools. They push down the hole and extract out something that's stuck. There are all kinds of different methods. They go down and they have it's called jarring tools. It cocks itself hydraulically and then slams it, trying to knock it loose. Some of these oil rigs are about $200,000 an hour, so the component that they stick down there, they're not really worried too much about what it costs. They're interested in getting that oil rig back online. Much different than the automobile industry that is very, very conscious of every single component costs pennies. In the oil service area, in the area that we're at, the quality of the part is more important than the price. We are just noodling around right now in aerospace and defense components. We'd like to make that a bigger sector of our business. We've got a little bit of it. We'd like more. Automotive powertrain and driveline components. We have 5% of our business automotive, and we would not like that to be much more than that. It is really a cutthroat business right now. If you would, you could sign in, please. High performance and aftermarket automotive tooling. We have a pretty good customer in California that makes limited slip differentials for these smaller street racing machines, drifting machines, and the Hondas and that sort of thing, where they really push the car hard. And their market is they've designed and built special limited slip differentials, and we make that, and that's a growing part of our business. Then we make mold and die components. Mold and die components is a dying industry here it's still here, it's still around, but it is mostly Asia. Almost all plastic componentry was made in Asia. The dies before were made here, the molds shipped over there, and they make the plastic and ship them over here. It was a waste of time. So now they are making, they have a whole big shift over to all mold and mold components being made in Asia, used in Asia to make the plastic parts. There's still some here. It was at one time 50% of our business, is probably now about 10 or 15% of our business. Don't go to sleep on me here. There you go. Okay, a crew. You know what I'm going to talk about here? This is an entrepreneurial class. What I'm going to talk about really is my business and my approach to business. We're a small business. We've been successful over the years. I have a certain approach, and by no means do I want to imply that it's the only approach. I'm going to tell you how I do it and the reasons why I do it, and maybe if you guys eventually end up in business, you can cherry pick some good ideas out of here, but by no means do I want to imply that I've got all the answers. And sometimes I sound like I got all the answers, but I know I don't. Okay, our crew. We've stayed with young people, retired people. We have a big program for high school co-ops, 16, 17 years old, hire them, work for us for a couple summers. We get a feel for their talent and that sort of thing, and then we can offer them a job getting out of high school full-time or not. We don't have to. It's a great screening device. And then we'll, of course, as they go to college, we'll pay for the tuition. Kevin Lacombe, who is my business for sale many years ago, he started off as a co-op business. He's buying my business. He started off as a co-op student. Went to Lawrence Tech, got his master's from Lawrence Tech, and we paid for his tuition along the way. We're non-union. We've never really had any approach on our company, and I'll show you in a minute why, because we share our profits with our employees. We are non-union. In this environment, highly competitive environment, I can't imagine a manufacturing business being competitive with some of the strictures that you have from a union shop. Well-trained. Young does not mean not trained. I'll show you as we go through here that we actually have a classroom. We have classes that we hold, several classes. We'll get into that, and because it's not good. It's not enough just to have a potentially good employee with good mechanical skills inherently. You have to train and drill and train a little like the military. And of course, our motivation comes from our profit sharing and our cash bonuses, which we'll get into. Our facilities are 80,000 square feet. It's a clean, modern, organized shop. We have 95 pieces of CNC equipment, and our average age is about 9.1 years average age. Our business model, again, is VMI, Vendor Managed Inventory, and Batch Manufacturing. That's our crew. Standing out in front of the shop, you notice they all have uniforms on. We pay for the uniform. The uniforms are an expense to the company that we're more than willing to pay for. I think it's a little disconcerting to go through a facility, a manufacturing facility, and see all this great equipment and then see this ragtag group of people running them, some in Bermuda shorts and wife beater shirts, running the machines. And it's much better, I think, a presentation, and it's worth it to have people in uniforms. And I'm going to dwell on some details as we go, and they may seem minor, but collectively they mean something. Uniforms, so what do they mean? To the employee, it's a big plus. They got a brand new car. If they're working in their street clothes and they go home, they have this new car adopting the oil smell of the shop in their new car, and they don't like that. So with a uniform, you get to change your uniform. If it's soiled, if it smells like oil, you get back into your street clothes. We also have in our facility, interesting enough and used a lot, we have private showers. Every employee has permission to use the private showers. There's 6 private showers. They're modeled after the state parks. If you go to a state park and go to the shower, they no longer have men's and women's. They just have a shower. So you open the front door and there's a vestibule area. You lock the door, there's a vestibule area. Take your clothes off, take a shower, put your fresh clothes on and walk out. So they don't have to have men and women showers. The same thing with ours when we have the vestibule area, the locker room, you're always walking around with your clothes on. We don't have gang showers, they're private showers with the vestibule. So we've got a little privacy there. We have 2-shift operation. Even today, when we're very slow, we have 40 hours, but we still have a 2-shift operation. It helps us utilize our equipment more. Here's a picture of our classroom. We do have classroom training, and we believe it is an integral part of each employee's employment, especially since we hire young guys. I'll tell you, a mistake we made in the beginning with our education and our training program. These guys, they come out of high school and they're weak in algebra and they're weak in some of the math areas. So we would teach algebra 1, 2, and a little bit of trigonometry so they could understand that. And that was good, that was okay, but it wasn't matching what we're trying to teach them out in the shop on the job training. We were trying to teach them how to use a checking instrument. But when they came in the classroom, we were teaching them algebra. And algebra is okay, but the overlap wasn't good enough. So we've revamped our training and education program so that if we're teaching them how to use a checking instruments in the shop, when they come into the classroom environment, we'll have a tray there and we'll have different, like a dial bore gauge. A young man who uses a dial bore gauge can read the dial bore gauge, but if you don't train him, when he puts it down, he'll put it down on its bezel and scratch the glass surface. So you have to train him. You've been telling him out in the shop, but you have to reinforce it in the classroom. The classroom comes from a little bit different angle than the shop side, and between the two of them, I think we have a more effective way of educating our employees. So we're now in the classroom trying for congruency, really trying to achieve congruency. If we are trying to show the young guy how to read an engineering drawing in the classroom, we start out with feature control frame. What is a feature control frame? What does it mean? What is concentricity? What's the difference between runout and total runout? And then we actually get into GD&T, geometric dimension and tolerancing, so in the classroom environment. About a number of years ago, 1995, 14 years ago or so, we made a transition from one guy running one machine to one guy running 2 machines. We had a customer. It was called Mascotech, and we were bidding, and our bids were always high, and it was good work. We wanted it, and they were kind enough to say, well, listen, come on over and see how we do it. So come on over. And they had one guy running 2 machines, and we once in a while had that. We didn't think that that could be a standard operating practice, as one guy running 2 machines. And they showed us that was false. You can. And we copied them. We absolutely copied them. Started to machine their parts in a 2-machine cell, found it was very effective. That we lost them as a customer. They moved on, sold out, and moved on. But we kept the 2-machine cell concept and never looked back. We've even added another one. This is the operator here is running 2 Fidal vertical machining centers. And it's a pretty effective way of getting 2 spindles in the cut. We are most recently developed, over 2 or 3 years, a 3-machine cell concept. We played with it for a long time, but we finally, we think, found the right combination for a work cell. You know, it used to be, in the old days, you would think about output per machine. How much you charge on this machine, they'd say. Well, that's a $40 an hour machine, that's a $50 an hour machine, that's a $60 an hour machine. You can throw that out the window. It's output, it's called FTE, full-time equivalent. That's, the MMTC calls it that, and I like it. FTE, full-time equivalent. What is your output for your full-time equivalent employee? What is he producing? You don't care if he's running 1 machine, 2 machines, or 3 machines. What are you producing for him? The most expensive item on my profit and loss statement is clearly my labor. And if you do a Pareto analysis, you know, what are you trying to, what do you have to be most effective with? The most expensive thing you have in the shop, and that's people. So we've developed, I'll give you a little diagram here that it's pretty simple. We've developed a 3-machine cell. It's an aisle way. Parts coming in. We have a turning machine, CNC turning machine, a CNC turning machine, the second machine, and a milling machine. And in the old days, prior to the Mascotech, we'd have 1 turning machine that would run the work. So we'd have a guy would run the parts, fill up the crate, it'd go on the shelf waiting for the next operation, the second turning machine. This is very, very common. Very inefficient, but very common. Then when that machine opened, you'd take the work off the shelf, do the turning on it, put it back on the shelf, and wait for the milling machine to open up. Then you'd mill it and get it out. Now, you have the raw material coming in. It goes into the turning machine. It comes out, goes on the bench, and goes into the next turning machine, comes out to the bench. You put it on the bench so you can load the next part, then into the milling machine, then into a checking station, and then into the finished box. This is about 8 feet, and it's done simultaneously. There's so many advantages to that. In fact, there's so many advantages to this. You would think, well, you'd have to have an IQ of 70 not to figure that out. Well, for years, we didn't figure that out. Now we have. If the first operation distorts the part, and we're doing it the old way, you can't see the distortion of the second operation affecting the first operation until you actually do it. Now, with one part making this whole circuit, if there's any operation that affects the other adversely, you pick it up on one part. You don't have a bunch of parts in the box that are scrap. I know this sounds really elementary, but it took us a long time to get there. There we go. Another aspect of, you kind of get a good view of the inside of our shop here. We have 100-foot candles of light. The lights you see in there, we're just changing out right now. These lights are 8 years old, and the new, I think they're called T8 lights, fluorescent, no mercury lights, are really much more effective, and we're just changing those lights out now. But we still will have 100-foot candles of power or light in there. We have one guy running three saws. We have, let's see if we can, okay, that's a 9-inch saw there, that's our Armada, and a 13-inch saw, then a 16-inch saw. And this guy you see back here is loading it up. There's one guy running 3 machines again. The saws are easy to run because they're automatic feed. We have account managers that are assigned to all large customers. So when we have a customer, we sell our business as higher value added, okay? So in the old days, a customer would call in and say, hey, where's this part? Hey, we'll call you back. We'll go find out, go out in the shop and find out, and we'll call you back. Well, that's okay. Never nearly as good as having an account manager that knows that product intimately. Each of our product account managers, product managers, they have a list of every single job of that customer running through there. They have the operations down and where it is at that day. So when the guy calls in and say, where is this? He said, well, we have half of them at the heat treat. They're supposed to come back today. The other half are just coming out of the last turning operation. Right on the phone, no delay, right there, they have it. We have to have a Ritz-Carlton kind of step and fetch attitude for our customers. They need to have, when they call up there, they need to, it's just like staying at a 5-star hotel and you've asked the concierge something. That's the kind of response we want to give to our customers. Okay, our shop. Our shop is divided into divisions, and you can think of them, we call them profit centers. Our shop has 9 internal divisions. We geographically separate our, well, like there's the MV40 division that has the style of machine is a Morisiki MV40. We have our Fidal division. The style of machine is basically Fidals. They do the same thing, but they're separated. Just as in at 92 employees and being a manufacturing company, it is, if we homogenized and just threw everybody in the shop area, we couldn't produce anything. Just like the military segments down from divisions, companies, and I believe the smallest military division is a platoon. We have platooning arrangement really with our shop. We've geographically marked off the areas. We've given them their own. I have 11 bathrooms in the shop. You're never more than 75 feet from a bathroom. A little aside story from that. I have young men who drink Mountain Dew, and it's not unusual to drink a couple 20 ounces after lunch. And man, they're going to the bathroom. If they got to walk 65,000 square foot shop up to the bathroom, it's a waste of time. So we have 11 bathrooms. Every division or profit center has a bathroom. They have an office, and they have their own tool crib too. We're showing a tool crib here. We have found that it is cheaper to duplicate tooling than it is for that operator to go across the aisle and try to borrow it, than the other guy to come back and borrow it back and go back and forth. So we tried to keep each of our divisions, profit center areas or platoons, autonomous in every respect. They have their own drinking fountain, their own coffee pot, tea, they have their own cleaning supplies, they have their own bathroom, and it's demarked by a yellow line. I tell my employees only half-jokingly that I know that we're making money when I look into the shop and I can hear all the machines running, lots of noise going on, and not one of you guys is standing in the aisles. So only half facetiously am I saying that. So they have their own tool cribs. We're really fanatics on organization and cleanliness. So the tool cribs are kept immaculate. We actually grade them. We even, again, for our higher value added approach to our customers necessarily gets us out of that simple geometry work. We get into some very complicated, some very tough work. Along with this, we borrowed a concept from the automotive industry. The automotive industry doesn't have all the bad concepts. They got a few good concepts. One is the APQP, Advanced Process and Quality Planning. So when we get to one of these parts that has a tough geometry and close limits, before we even launch into that part, we sit down with the division leaders, the senior managers, and say, okay, how are we going to check it? What are we going to do? We have the capability of producing custom checking instruments. This checking instrument that's shown in the slide here above, this was about $25,000 checking instruments. A lot of design, a lot of iterations to get to that. But it takes a part, and I believe there's 17 elements that it can check in about 15 seconds. You push, it's done. And without this, with using just standard tooling, the operator couldn't keep up with the machine. So with the higher value that we're attempting to do for our customer comes the more complicated, tougher geometries, and the corollary is we have to elevate our inspections to make sure we get our production out. This is just a quick shot of our CMM, coordinate measure machine. The coordinate measure machine we chose this particular machine. It's actually a Brown and Sharp. I don't know if it shows that, but it has an articulating arm, which means the probe can come down, it can come up here, come up here, and come up here. It also has probe changing capabilities, and here's why that works well. You can have a very complicated part, a housing with many, many different dimensions on it. You can set it up get it programmed, and turn your back on it. And even if it takes 45 minutes for the machine, and the machine's quick, but you got a lot of dimensions, a lot of things to check, even if it takes 45 minutes, you're not going near it. You're not pushing it. You got your back to it. The operator is working on something else. He comes back, and the beauty of the output out of this machine, is, which I liked, it's visual. All dimensions, as it prints out its output, which we need for our records, you fan through it. If the dimension is within a CPK of 1.33, it'll be green. If it's within the limit but outside that CPK value, it'll be yellow. If it's outside the limit, it'll be red. So as you fan through that thing, if you got green, you don't even have to look at the numbers. It's all green, it's good. If you got yellow, you start to look at the yellow. Oh, that one's all right. Oh, that one's all right. If it's red, okay, we got a problem here. And that's very nice. All right, again, these little things. We're talking about little things. It's a box van. So we ordered this box van, and we noticed we had just a step van before a small van, and we needed more room. And we observed all of our vendors that used box vans, and most of them just had a door on the back. And you'd look at the floor where it's being used. The floor in the front of the van is absolutely pristine. It's never used because you can't get at that. And even if you can get at it with a loading dock, when you go to your customer and he doesn't have a loading dock, you end up throwing a chain around it and then dragging it out. So what we did, we got a custom door manufacturer to put 5 doors on here. When this thing is open, it doesn't even look like, it looks like there's a door, and the back door. Now the side doors, they come up and they go underneath one another, so you can open all doors at the same time. It seems like a minor thing, but it's not. We can load this van up completely, and if its first stop is a skid that's way up in the front, you open up the side panel, you come in and you can get it. Little things. Again, 80,000 square feet, 65,000 square feet of manufacturing, climate controlled. That's a bit of an exaggeration. It's air conditioned. I was corrected once when I said climate control. That means you have humidity control. We have air conditioning, but I'm leaving it on there anyway. Yeah, a little polish, you know. Within minutes to 2 major expressways, we have 2 truck wells and an automatic dock levelers. Some of our customers rate us on how fast we can offload their truck, and they come in skids, and you've got to be quick. Get that truck back out on the road. And we also have a surface store with a crane load. We have a direct central DNC system, and all of our machines are networked to a DNC system, so we can trade programs back and forth very easily without running around with a floppy disk. Vendor managed inventory. Let's see what. Okay, I'm good. Vendor managed inventory. This system works best with product line customers. I mentioned that in the very beginning. This emphasis on just-in-time delivery that the big companies have, that they want to have inventory turns. What happens, in effect, it pushes the inventory management down to their vendor. It is not economical. I don't care what study you look at. It's not economical to make 10 parts 12 times a year. It's much more economical to make 120 parts once. And not only that, it's a lot more economical for the customer to do that. If you're ordering 10 parts 12 times, you're writing up and you have the paperwork processing for 12 purchase orders versus 1. So we encourage our customers that we would like to manage their inventory. You give us a blanket order for your year's supply, we'll run it, give you a lower unit cost, much lower than you would if you ordered just 1 month's supply, and we'll carry the inventory for you. Now that requires us to have a lot of dineros tied up in the inventory. However, the cost of carrying that inventory is minor in comparison to the unit cost reduction by running that full quantity. And that's been our story and our theory. It's worked for a number of years. The only couple of caveats on that, a couple of pitfalls, if your customer goes out of business, you got a bunch of boat anchors in supply. And we have not had that happen, but we're always concerned about that. And the other thing is engineering change. You have to have a stable product. You can't have one that's going through a bunch of engineering changes because there you go, your inventory isn't worth anything. But a lot of our customers, it works out very well. This is this is back to this. This inventory is in a small room. They're very small, dense, high-cost parts. This inventory is more bulky, cheaper parts that carries a lot of, there's a lot of space for, both rooms carry about $1 million worth of inventory, but one occupies a whole lot more square footage, which is factored into the price. We sell our customers on vendor-managed inventory. The delivery improvement from the manufacturer and to the end customer is greatly improved with vendor-managed inventory. You know, you can't, it's a mistake to think that the world just works like gears all together and it's always going at the same speed. If you're selling 120 of something a year, you're not selling 10, 10, 10, 10. You sell 20, then next month nothing, and then 25, and then 12, and then 6, and that sort of thing. So it's really difficult to manage if you're ordering short orders. But if you've got and I'm using the example of 120, if you put that into the inventory at one time, if you have a surge from your customer, you can satisfy it. If you've got a sag, there's nothing that month, you don't sell them anything. So the customer doesn't carry that inventory, doesn't pay for anything. He only pays on demand. Okay, stockouts are decreased while inventory of the distributor is reduced. The stockouts, some of my customers have distributors. They can carry a lower inventory because they won't stock out. They can get it from us. We can next day air drop ship it to their customer. More inventory turns and shorter lead times for the customer. Planning and ordering costs decreased due to the responsibility being shifted to the manufacturer. Planning and ordering costs now are 1 purchase order versus 12. Service is improved by having the right product at the right time. And the manufacturers focus on providing greater service. We are no longer preoccupied with fire drilling, trying to get this out, trying to balance this, take this out, put this in. It's nothing but a fire drill, trying to do parts if you order too short a quantity. If you get a bigger quantity in and it's on the shelf, then our product managers can concentrate on service to the customer. If you have a problem with a part, we'll come over there and take a look at it. And it's a much less chaotic way of running a business with a product line customer. Our equipment, I think we went over that. Cellular work cells. We have avoided assiduously special equipment. When you're doing automotive work, you kind of gravitate towards specialized pieces of equipment because you can cut a few seconds off and it's good. The problem with that is if that job disappears, you got nothing. You can't do anything else with it. We have taken and consciously only purchased standard pieces of equipment, but we've arranged them in interesting configurations to match the work, to get not as good as special machine productivity, but very good productivity. And when the job ends, we break that configuration apart because we have standard modular pieces of equipment, and it goes back to the regular configuration. Real briefly here, because I want to, let's see here. Okay, I want to get into a couple things about being in business. Maybe some of you guys one day would like to be in business. We've been talking about the nuts and bolts, and I want to step up one level and talk about the management of a business. Anyway, we have 45 pieces of CNC equipment. Hey, what's interesting, look at these names. Mazak, Miyano, Washian, Morisiki, Daewoo, no American. Korean, Taiwanese, Japanese. Milling machines, Morisiki, Fadal, and Haas. Fadal is an American company. I'm not sure whether they've been bought out. The name comes from Frank, Adrian, Dave, and Larry. That's the guy's son. That's where they got Fadal. But Haas is an interesting company. It's an American company. Gene Haas started it. It started up in California, and they're whipping everybody's ass producing vertical machining centers. The guy is a legend, and that's an American company, and they may have a fantastic piece of equipment. We have a laser marking machine. Laser marking is really a good way, a new way, not new to us. When we mark a part, traceability becomes very important. So we have to, there's really no good way other than laser, to my mind, of marking. You can stamp a part, you can vibratory etch it, you can ball peen it, you can do all kinds of things to mark it, but nothing beats laser. Laser, anything that you could print with your inkjet printer, you can etch on the part with a laser marker. You can put a logo on, you can put directions, you can different fonts, you can kern it, you can go around corners. You can serialize. Every part goes in, has increments up with a serialization. And that's been a real good selling asset for us. There's our inspection lab. I'm not going to go through that. Let's talk about this for a minute. Okay, you know, you guys, you know, you're in probably mechanical engineering, you're in projects, that sort of thing. And maybe one day you want to go into business and you think of the reasons why you would want to go into business. And I've heard reasons like, well, I don't like taking guff from my boss. You know, I want to go into business so I can be my own boss. And I can tell you, you'll take more guff from your customer than you ever would from your boss. And a guy says, well, you know, I want to spend a little bit more time on my boat on Lake St. Clair. I think I'm going to go into business for myself. Well, I got news for you. You're going to put in long hours if you go into business. Generally, I'm speaking in general. I think the primary motivation, and probably the truest one, is to make money. That's the reason why would you take on that extra risk and worry? Why would you work hard? Why would you take guff from customers? Because you can make money. And that's really important. That's the single most important measure of your business is your growth and profitability. That tells you you've got a good business. And you can be an average student with above average ambition and get paid a whole lot more than you would ever in any sort of industry job. I can vouch for that. Okay, let's look at this. I wanted to show you that how humble you can start. And you know, last year we had our best year ever. We did just over 15 million. Compared to what we did before, that was our best year by far. It was our best year in profits, sales, percent of profits. We had our best cash bonus and our best profit sharing. It started off in 1971. That's when I started working there full time. I graduated from Lawrence Tech in 73. I bought the business in 77. And you can see the ups and downs, and that's another thing. You're never going to have, you're going to have surge years and sag years, especially in manufacturing. My gosh, you have a great year and you're saying, oh, next year's really going to be good, and it's a down year, but that's part of the game. You can't worry about a down year or 2 years or 3. Look at, 2000 was a great year, and I didn't get back up to 2000 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I didn't get back up there, with last year being a surge year. This year is going to be in the tank. It's going to be down, but that's part of the game. One of the things, how much time we got here? When's this class end? 10-2? Anybody? 10-2. What do we got? I've got, okay, we're good. Okay. I think the mistake many companies make is thinking of their employees as adversaries, and that the employees are there to get a bigger slice of a pie, and you're there to keep them from getting a bigger slice of the pie. And there's a theory, it's called theory of scarcity, that the pie's only so big, and you're fighting the employees for your share, and they're fighting you for their share, and you get a very adversarial relationship going. What you need to do, and again, I preface this is my opinion, what I need to do in my business, I thought, was to give our employees an incentive to be identified with the profitability and the growth of the business, and not as an adversary. So we started this. Our system shares our profits with our employees, over 5% with our employees, 40%. So 40% of our profits are returned to our employees in the form of profit sharing and cash bonus. Well, how's that worked out? Well, 2008, we earmarked, the JFM is January, February, March, $203,000 in profit sharing and the same amount in cash bonus. And April, May, June, second quarter was $78,000. We had a great summer, $251,000, and we just started to get hit by the recession in October and November. But $537,000 is what we returned to our employees last year in profit sharing. That amounts to 11% of their wage. Now, if you work for a company and you've got a 401k and your company matches it, that's a good deal. Sometimes they'll match 25 cents on a dollar or 50 cents on a dollar up to a certain point. In our system, our company contributes the entire amount, 11%. So if a guy made $60,000, we put $6,600 into their profit sharing account contributed by the company, and they didn't put in a dime. In addition to that, we had $537,000 in cash. Over the years, our cash bonus over 26 years, about $5 million we've been able to give back to our customers, our employees. Now you look, there's 2 years there. 2001, that was 9/11, we moved into our new building. In 2005, we were going through some heavy rebuilding of the company through new equipment. There was nothing. But my employees know that, if we go back, they see this chart. They see it. They know how we're going, whether we got red ink or black ink up there. So when we had these years where there was no profits and nothing to give, they're well aware of that. It doesn't come to them at the end of the year as a surprise. And our profit sharing, the last one with this one, that's cash bonus. This is profit sharing. We have about $7,800,000 in there now. We've contributed about $5 million into that over the years. And we've got, I've got one guy with about $700,000 in there, and he's 48 years old and high school graduate, so it's working for a long time, doing a good job, and an astute investor. Oop, and now there we go. All right, now I want to open it up to questions. We just have a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions? You got to have some. Yes, sir.
I'm assuming your turnover rate for your employees is very low?
Yes, that's true, but you have to segment it. Our turnover rate for our newest employees is fairly high because we're pretty demanding. You've got to contribute. This is not a cakewalk. You're not coming into the post office. So a lot of our, I hope nobody works at the post office here. A lot of our employees don't have the discipline to show up on time, and we are a time-driven company. That's another aspect I didn't mention in here, but every single employee in our shop, we're at 92 punches a clock, including myself. We have a certain start time, and if your start time is 6 o'clock and you punch in at 6:01, you're late. So when we hire a new guy coming in, and he can't show up on time, or he's got to leave early, or he's got some lame excuse why he can't come to work, or he's hard to deal with, or he doesn't have that enthusiasm that we want to see on the machine, we cycle that guy out real quick. So the first 6 months we have a high turnover rate. If you've lasted 6 months and you kind of like it, your job is there. We have a very low turnover rate. Past 6 months or a year, if you like it and we like you, you're here to stay. Okay, what else? Oh, come on, guys, don't let me die up here. Yes, sir.
When you had the screen up there with your profits and, and your sales, when did you start adapting some of those new techniques that you were talking about?
All the way along, and that's a very good question. I think there is a definite advantage to having young people work for you with enthusiasm, because they'll come up and they'll say, hey, why don't we do it this way? And if you're open-minded about it, you say, well, let's give that a try. And we're constantly thinking about this. We have QC meetings, quality control meetings, but they're much more than that. We go over the cost sheet on every job. And if we tank on a job, we sit around and say, what happened here? What went on with this job? They say, well, Mike, you bid it too low. I said, well, is that right? There's the sister part over here is running pretty good. What happened over here? Well, maybe we selected the wrong machine. It didn't have enough Z-axis thrust on it. So the cycle time drove up. Well, then let's get it into the other machine. So make a note next time, do not run in the wash-ends, run it in the Morisiki or something like that. So the new techniques, it's a dynamic, ever-moving target of constant progression of better manufacturing devices. I tell you another thing. I'm going to do all the talking here. We have, at the front of our shop, we have our division leaders all have business cards, every one of them. And instead of filtering, as most companies do, that the salesman come in, hey, I'd like to talk, hey, you can't get past the front desk. We want our salesmen to be talking to our division leaders if they have a tool to show them. Who better to evaluate that tool? Not me sitting at my desk. So when the sales come in and say, great tool, hey, go right back there and talk to that guy. And the salesmen today are pretty aggressive. They normally will say, okay, here, I'm going to give you the inserts, and I'm going to give you the tool, and you can test it. If it doesn't work, you don't own anything. You don't have to pay for it. But if it works, you own it. And they have the authority, if it costs under $500, they have the authority themselves, without going through any paperwork or any sort of permission. They say, okay, bring it in, and they can test it out. Then they would come to a QC meeting and say, look, we tested this tool versus that tool. That's a great tool, and I bought it. Okay, good. Now they can't go over a certain dollar amount by that, but it's a constant evolution, and you want and manufacturing cannot exist without that kind of enthusiasm and input from your employees. They should constantly be pushing you to better this, do this better, do this better. Yes. Yes, sir.
What are your future plans for the company in regards to the downturn in the economy?
Go hang myself. Grab a rope, find a tree. No, okay. Listen, you edit that out. You filming this? Okay. Now, there's 4 areas that we're looking at. One is medical. One is they call alternate energy, and basically it's wind power. Aerospace and defense. And we are pursuing all 4 of those. There's not we do those things in only minor, and the segment should be much bigger on our customer list. The defense we'd like to do, we just now got to have our cage code. Cage is, it's like an individual's Social Security number. The government doesn't recognize you until you have a cage code, but now we can quote directly for the government, and we're just learning how to do that. We're dealing, and we're trying to deal with a company called Next Energy, and it's the MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, has contracted with Next Energy to help out with alternate energy, and so we're working with them, and maybe we've quoted 1 windmill part so far. So I can tell you where it's not going, automotive. Okay, well, it's not. You know, my personal opinion is automotive in Michigan is done. You know, it's done. And so we've got to be looking at something else. So those 4 areas are what we're looking at. Yes, sir.
You said that you minimized automotive to
yes, it's 5% of our work, and we're very careful all the time. We're very careful not to get too involved with that. It's been so cutthroat for so long, and you feel like a fighter in the 8th round when you're dealing with those guys. You know, you're punch drunk. You know, they just whatever you do is not good enough, and they want a lower price. You know, okay, there's limits here. No limits. You know, okay, so all right, yes, sir.
Are you ever concerned that developing countries like India and China are going to be able to match your quality of parts?
Absolutely concerned about it. I took a trip to Southeast Asia, and I was amazed. I thought I'd walk into dirt floor outhouse in the back, dirt floor pole barn, you know, guys on lathes. No. I went to Thailand. Thailand's that's a wonderful country. They have it's 95% Buddhist, just as an aside, and the Buddhists don't have an axe to grind with anybody. So you're very comfortable in it. It's in the northern part, not in that southern peninsula. Okay, that's not Buddhist. But in the northern part, central part, Bangkok, in that area, the people are very nice, very friendly, and they've developed these private enterprise parks that when you are in the park, you have a paved street that's wide, stucco buildings. You would think you're in a modern, brand new industrial subdivision in Sterling Heights. You wouldn't even know the difference. They have their own hospital, their own power plant, their own sewage treatment plant, their own restaurants, and it's tax-free zone. Scared the bejesus out of me. You know, I'm competing with that. You know, so and you walk into their air-conditioned factories, and what do they have in there? Morisikis, washer. They have all the same equipment they've got. You know, so I think our advantage, believe it or not, though, is that we're much further down the road with our skill level of our employees. They're still metaphorically taking a guy in from the rice field and training him. You're taking a 3rd or 4th generation auto worker's son, you know, into that, and he knows that a right-hand screw gets turned this way to tighten and this way to loosen. I mean, it's just intuitive. He's been working on mechanical stuff all his life, so his ramp-up is very good. Then you have this wealth of very high sophisticated, high-end knowledge base in this area. So we are competing on work that they may have the equipment, but they're not quite up to the sophistication of the knowledge base that we have right now. But yes, I am worried about that. Okay, what else we have, gentlemen? Anything? I hope I didn't discourage anybody from going into business for yourselves, but it could be a good ride. It could be a good ride, and you can make a lot of money, but it's not a cakewalk. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Mike Fitzpatrick for being with us. We had a very interesting session. I sat through this earlier, and this was really, you kind of embellished this, and it was really very, very interesting. I think several points that you made were just right at home. And I think in these tough economic times, obviously, differentiation, innovation, creativity, we've got to learn how to do that and do it better. Certainly, in this country, we're not producing nearly the number of engineers that we need to produce. And when you look at, you mentioned India, you mentioned China and other countries around the world producing more engineers than we are, but certainly it is scary times, but there are also many, many opportunities out there. I want to thank you very, very much for attending. If you have not signed the attendance sheet, we have it up front. You can do that. This lecture will be repeated at 5:45 this afternoon. You're welcome to come back if you want to hear this again, but hopefully there will be another group in here at that time. So have a great afternoon.
There's a brochure up here. If you're interested, take a brochure. I've got a card, and it's yours for the taking if you want it.
If any of you are interested in the August 17th Illinois Institute of Technology